Good evening, YouTube. It is Savage Brewski, and I am very proud to present to you a checklist video, one of which I have not made in a very long time, and quite frankly, the first one I've ever done for Warhammer 40K. Yes, it's a new edition, it's a new game, and I'm doing something totally new because I have never reviewed a Harlequin list. So there's going to be clowns, and they are insane, but thank God they're not from Detroit. Otherwise, I'd probably have a bottle of Faygo shoved up my... Anyway. Moving on. So, I had a request from Stoss5 on Reddit. He has a 1,000 point incursion size Harlequin list that he wanted some help with, and this is what he's bringing to the game. So, for his characters, he's got a Death Jester. He's giving this a Jester's Blade, a Shrieker Cannon, and Fate's Messenger, a Shadow Seer for 80 points. He's got a Miststave, a Shuriken Pistol, and he's also got Reader of the Runes, a Solitaire, straightforward, a Troop Master that is going to be the Warlord with a Fusion Pistol, a Troop Master Blade, and the Weaving Stones, going heavy in the enhancements here. For the battle line units, he's only got 2 troops, both, one of them 90 points, a 6-person, I believe, 1 lead player, 1 Aeldari Power Sword, and a Neuro Disruptor, 5 players, with Harlequin special weapons, 1 Neuro Disruptor, and 4 Shuriken Pistols. A second troop for 75 points. This is just 5 models, I believe. 1 times lead player, 1 Aeldari Power Sword, and a Fusion Pistol. 4 players with a Fusion Pistol, 4 times Harlequin special weapon, and 3 Shuriken Pistols. 1 transport, a Star Weaver with a close combat weapon, and 2 times Shuriken Cannons. Then he's bringing 3 units of Sky Weavers. These are just 2 models each. 1 unit has close combat weapons, 2 Skyweaver Haywire Cannons, and 2 Zephyr Glaives. The other one has 2 Star Bolas and 2 Shuriken Cannons. The third one has same build as the first one. Close combat weapons, 2 Skyweaver Haywire Cannons, and 2 Zephyr Glaives. And then he's bringing a Void Weaver for 100 points with close combat weapon, 2 Shuriken Cannons, and a Void Weaver Haywire Cannon. So that's the list. And just looking at it as is first, I'm just going to go over what I see in this, basically what everything's good at, the strengths, weaknesses, high points. I'm not so much bothering with the stratagems, the overall army doctrine. I'm just going right into the units and what they're going to do. So, your Death Jester is obviously a fire support piece, very, very nasty, great for messing with a key unit that you're shooting at. Death is not enough, means if you kill a model with the shooting, the unit has to take a battle shock test, which is handy. Cruel Amusement, he can choose to give his shots ignores cover, precision, or sustained hits times 3. Very handy and very versatile, depending on what you're shooting at. With Fate's Messenger, once per turn, you can change a hit roll, a wound roll, to an automatic 6. Not bad, given the fact you already have Fate dice. It's a little bit overkill, but make sure that he's either doing his job killing things or stays alive. Shadow Seer is a combat baddie, but extremely short-ranged. This buffs a troop with stealth with Fog of Dreams, and Twilight Pathways allows for an advanced move or reroll and charge when you're advancing. Reader of the Runes makes you reroll a Fate dice and add it back to your pool in the command phase. Nice. Solitaire. Need I say more? This thing is a little combat psychotic. This can't join units, so you want to be careful this doesn't run up against anything with precision weapons, otherwise it will get sniped out. However, this thing moves insanely quickly with Blitz. You can add 2d6 inches to the move and 3 attacks for a total of 12 in a single turn. So shred units. That's really what you're going to want to do here. Your Troop Master is going to be your Warlord. A little more versatile, possibly a little bit shootier. Gives devastating to the troop it leads with Choreographer of War, and buffs Fate dice with Segarak's Favor. This is an auto 6 to hit, wound, or save rolls, but only once per turn. Best uses a Warlord due to the Troop Master rules, so the troops become battle line. They are. Weeping Stones adds a Fate dice whenever the unit destroys an enemy unit. So hopefully the troop he's with will actually get stuck in and destroy whole units, so you can add more Fate dice to your pool. All right, getting into the units here. You've got 2 troops, pretty standard. These are small, a 5-man and a 6-man. They really can't take losses and hold objectives. That's the big thing I'm worried about. I'd feel better about either making one bigger or getting a 3rd one in. Otherwise, they're Harlequins, they're combat badasses, they're good in melee, they have a little bit of shooting. I notice you're taking both power weapons and the fusion pistol so they can actually do some melt-the-shots. That's versatile, that's handy, but I think if these things come up against any kind of armor, they're not going to be around too long. Here's where I'm really worried. You've got 3 units of Sky Weavers, 2 bikes each. They cover the bases, and it looks like the haywire cannons are your best anti-vehicle guns in this list right now. The Star Bolas can handle some mobs of the infantry, but I'm a little curious as to why you took Zephyr Glaives on the same units as you have the haywire cannons. I can see the strength and the damage potential, but I think you want to keep the cannon squads mobile and shooting instead of getting into melee. These are your heavy lifters, to be honest with you, because they're the most mobile and they can get around. And I know you're thinking with holding objectives with these, but they're only 2 bikes. They're not very tough. They're not very survivable. If they go down in strength, you're almost always going to be outnumbered. I don't really see them being the objective holders. They're really more for combat. So I'm not sure how you're going to deal with the objective game. Minimum units used to be in older editions. You could get away with that kind of thing. I don't really see that as viable in this one. Last but not least, you're bringing a Void Weaver. Gun platform. I think on this one, I would rather see you max out the anti-infantry on this. You're taking the prismatic cannon instead of the haywire. I don't like mixing anti-infantry and anti-vehicle or anti-armor, and I think you're going to do better with the prismatic just because you have an option that way. If you're shooting armor, the shurikens are kind of going to be plinking off, but if you take the other weapon, then you're going to have a better chance of messing with a whole squad when you do this. I think I forgot up here with the troops, you're actually going to have a Star Weaver. It's a shuriken platform. Rapid embarkation is handy for getting a troop out of combat, but this thing only has 6 wounds. It's not going to hold up to too much fire. It's not very tough. Your army in the encyclopedia reads under glass cannon. It can do a lot of damage. It's got a lot of killy things, but it's very fragile. That's what I'm mostly worried about. So as it is, strengths, you have a ton of rerolls between your fate dice, all the rerolls, the enhancements you gave your characters. You're as buffed as you can possibly get with this army, and you have a lot to work with in terms of rerolls, redoing things as you choose, whether hitting, wounding, saving, you name it. You can even add some with the upgrade to the troop leader. But other than that, you've got some very nasty stuff. You get several things that will cause battle shock tests. That's very good if you want to just render units unable to really do much to you in a turn. It's very fast. You've got 3 units of jet bikes, 2 vehicles, and the rest of the models are pretty quick as they are. The Solitaire is insanely quick for an infantry model. This is going to zip around, and board control is probably going to be one of your strengths. Choosing your combat, choosing your melee is going to be another one. That's a plus. Here's the weakness. Even against elite armies, I think you're always going to be outnumbered. You've taken next to bare minimum units, except for one of the troops. You really don't have a lot in the way of unit numbers. In other words, numbers of units themselves. You're relying a lot on characters. You're gonna have trouble with holding objectives. Attrition is not your thing. You really have to hit hard, hit fast, and move around. Army wise, you're gonna struggle against things with numbers. I think Dark Eldar, Orcs, Tyranids, Imperial Guard are going to be an issue for you, whether they run more armor or more infantry. I think there's just going to be too much for you to deal with. If you're taking on a Phalanx style army of Necrons, in other words, a lot of cheap infantry, a lot of warrior squads, scarabs, not so much the elite end of things, not so many heavy character type choices, I think you're going to have a real hard time just because they're going to be reanimating and they're going to out-volley you. Those units can pour more fire into you than you can into them, even with a bunch of shurikens, haywires, you name it. AdMech probably can outgun you depending on what they take. Otherwise, they're going to out-tank you. So again, I think they've got more tough nuts to crack. Same with Guard. Your best advantage is going to be against smaller armies that are more elite, like Marines. If you happen to go up against regular Eldar, Chaos, some varieties of AdMech and Sisters of Battle, I think you'll do pretty well against. Probably Tau, just because you obviously have the close combat advantage, as long as they can't just shoot you up. If they castle up in a corner, it's going to be a long ride across the board. You're really going to have to hug cover. Here's my suggestions. I think between the number of characters for a 1,000 point list, and you're spending, I think, 50 points on the various upgrades to them, I don't think The 1,000 point size justifies using that many upgrades to get that many rerolls on top of what you already have. You already get 12 dice in Runes of Fate that you can just reroll to get however you want. You already have enhancements that let you get more of those. I think it's a bit too much, and I think you're really just capitalizing too hard on the reroll game. And I think you need to add some numbers no matter what you do with this list. Otherwise, it's not going to hold up against much of anything very long. If you take losses, you're done before you know it. Realistically, I think you can even lose characters. The list I would make, and this doesn't come out to an even 1,000 either, but what I would do, I would take the Solitaire, the Troop Master as your Warlord with the Weeping Stones. Keep that for him. Get a troop of 11 models and a troop of 5. Get the Star Weaver for the smaller squad. 2 max units of Skyweavers and a Void Weaver. That will bring you to 985 points. I'm not going into all the upgrades because I think generally you have this right. You can balance out the Skyweavers as you see fit. Make them more shooty or more assault as you think best. I just wouldn't mix the two. Skyweavers have that weird ability, and I didn't write the name down, but flying over things, doing damage to them. You stand a better chance if you have 4 per unit than you do 2. It also keeps them a bit more out of harm's way. I just think it's a smarter move, especially if they're going to be doing the hard work. You have more guns, you have more range. They have a better chance, since they are objective control too, you have a better chance of holding objectives with those, and the troop can focus on taking out the heavy melee targets while they move around and handle things as you need to, either killing a character, taking a table, edge, or a quarter, or holding a far objective. I just think that's smarter play with the list, but that is my 2 cents. All in all, I like this, and I'm going to be the first to say I'm not an expert with Harlequins, but I think you're going to have fun with the list. But I just think it's in 1,000 points, it's 2 character heavy. I would expect to see that many characters in a 2,000 point list, rounded out with some bigger, chunkier units and a lot more to shoot with and at. So anyway, Stas, that's my suggestions and my 2 cents on your list. I really hope it helps. To the rest of you guys out there, I am obviously up for doing checklist again. This was probably the most requested thing I had. People wanted to know when the army list reviews were coming back. Ladies and gentlemen, they're friggin' back. So I feel pretty versed in 40K. I can do War Machine, I can do Warcaster. So if you have an army list that you want reviewed here on the channel, please send me an email or drop it in the comments. You can even let me know about your meta, what you run up against or what you're having trouble with, and I will give you my 2 cents just like I did here on the list. Thank you very much for checking in, and we will see you on the next one. Stay savage, guys.